Solutions, the Product Manager for Network Solutions, Computing and Storage. I wish to welcome everyone to today's webinar. The topic of today's webinar is Ensure IT Service Continuity at a Reduced Cost. So the aim of this webinar is to show you how to proactively gain visibility into hidden risks in your environment and address them before they become problems. So our aim here is to free up your time so that you'll be able to deliver business value and change the perception of IT as a cost center. So before we get started, I just want to go over a few items to let us know how to participate in today's webinar. First, we'll have the opportunity to submit questions at, using the Q&A chat box on your screen. So in the course of the webinar, you'll be able to send your questions, and these questions will be collected and addressed at the end of the presentation. So today's webinar is being recorded. So after the webinar, we'll share the link so that you could also share the link with your colleagues and business associates. We have two wonderful presenters for today. We have Emil, the channel manager, EMEA. We also have Steve, senior solutions engineer. Before we get started, I just want to share with us just very few things about Layer 3 as a company. Layer 3 is a Nigerian-based IT solutions provider that delivers bespoke technology solutions to businesses and organizations of all sizes. We have different products and services ranging from Layer 3 cloud. We have our own cloud here in Nigeria. Network solutions, computing and storage, access services, Layer 3 security, as well as data analytics. We have we own our data center in Abuja, and then we have our metro fiber network in Abuja and Lagos. We operate from two different locations in Nigeria, Abuja and Lagos, Abuja being the HQ, the operational headquarters of the company. As of today, Layer 3 has over 75 staff who are very smart, I must tell you, and they help us to provide technology solutions that make businesses and individuals to excel. Layer 3 has, we are certified. We have ISO 27001 and 27017. We are also PCI DSS certified. So we understand what it means to do things properly and deliver peace of mind to our customers. We realize that, we know that the success of our customers is very, very important. And, it's, we hold very, very closely to us, and our culture helps us to work very closely with our customers to truly understand their business needs and IT needs. We continuously build strategic partnership with global technology partners, technology leaders. And they help us to deploy solutions. We work with them to deploy solutions that minimize risks and optimize the use of capital with results that exceed our customers' expectation. So what we do, we simply provide peace of mind to our customers. Thank you once again. So at this time, I'm going to hand over the floor to Emil, who is going to give us an introduction of Runcast as an OEM, as well as the solution, to tell us how we'll be able to ensure IT service continuity at a reduced cost. Emil?
Thank you. Thank you, Chinedu. Thank you. I hope you can guys hear me and see me well and understand me well. If not, raise your hand. I would like to extend my first of all, I want to thank Layer 3 for having us here today at this great audience and for giving us the chance to present our solution to this large audience. I want to say a couple of words about my role. My name is Emil. I'm a channel sales manager covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I'm dealing with most of the sales commercial stuff at Roomcast, and today the aim is to present you, first of all, our company and the general idea of Roomcast Analyzer. My colleague Steve Salisbury, who will introduce himself shortly, will take you into a deep dive, a technical presentation, where you will be able to see what technical features we've got and how we can help our customers keep their IT service continuity at a reduced cost. Steve, maybe you can introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hi. So I'm a senior solution engineer for Roomcast. I basically deal with all of the technical side of things, providing technical demos and documentation.
Okay, great. Are you able, guys, to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to start with a couple of words about our company. Roomcast Solutions is a UK-based company. Our headquarters are in London. We've got offices in Czech Republic, Australia, and Arizona, United States, and obviously UK. We've been on the market for 7 years now. Our company was founded by ex-IBM employees. I'll tell you more about it later. Currently, we have customers in more than 35 countries. Our team consists of very technical experts, experts, and even our CEO is BCDX number 74, which is one of the highest certifications, VMware certifications out there. We're working with VMware very closely. We are partnering on a global level. And as well, we are co-engineering some solutions together with VMware. I'd like to now draw your attention to the general idea of Roomcast Analyzer. All right, this is one of our products that I'd like to introduce today, and how the idea started back in the days. So back in the days, 7 years ago, the founders of Roomcast all worked at IBM at the VMware Center of Excellence. Of course, they had a huge experience dealing with different scenarios, different problems and issues with their customers across the globe, right? And they started to notice very interesting things. Most of the issues they had to fix for their customers were not unique issues, but they were issues that were already recognized by VMware and documented in the VMware knowledge base articles. I am sure, since this is a very technical audience, I'm sure you guys are familiar with VMware knowledge base articles. If not, please raise your hand so we can explain what this means. And I would like to ask you guys out there, the system admins and people who work with VMware, how many hours per month you spend searching through knowledge base articles? Please post your comments into the chat box. The founders back then realized that the issues that they found in their customer environments were documented in these knowledge base articles, but nobody reads them. Nobody ever spends any time on the knowledge base articles unless they have a serious problem already in their environment. Of course, this is the way things went back then, but this is very ineffective type of problem solving. Why? Because you have your problem and then you try to find a solution in, I don't know, several thousand articles. It may take a serious amount of time for you to find the right solution among these articles. And they realized if they use this knowledge base articles proactively, if they accumulate this knowledge and apply it against the environment of their customers, they could potentially knock out 90% of the issues before they cause severe damage to the VMware environment. I hope this makes sense. Again, if there are questions, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A box. Okay, the next two slides are actually very explicit. I'll show you what the typical troubleshooting is without having Roomcast Analyzer and then with Roomcast Analyzer. you will have a clear understanding what is the difference between the two types of troubleshooting. First of all, let's assume you have your hardware, your infrastructure, and your VMware on top of it. You experience some type of an issue. What you will probably do, try to solve the issue on your own, maybe contact VMware. If you're lucky, get an answer. And you most likely will end up as well searching through the internet, looking for appropriate knowledge-based article, maybe best practices describing your problem. Maybe you will find white papers, and you'll probably be reading as well security hardening guides. This is great, and it's been working well. However, it's reactive, right? While you're doing all this, your service is affected. Second, it's a time-consuming task. It may take minutes to find the right article, hours, or even days. It's reactive. You have a problem, and then you start searching for a solution out there. It's inefficient. It's not addressing your entire infrastructure, your entire environment, and certainly not addressing other known issues that you might have. Runecast Analyzer changes all that, right? We will scrape through the sources, these sources of information, the knowledge-based articles, best practices, security guides. There is a artificial intelligence within Runecast Analyzer which reads this whole database of information, and we accumulate this information, then apply it on the environment of our customers. Besides the knowledge-based articles, the best practices, and the security guides, we also incorporated a number of security standards in our coverage, such as ISO 27001. This is something that Cinedu already mentioned. We provide coverage for PCI DSS. We provide coverage for DSSTIC, which is one of the most stringent standards out there. It's mostly US related, but it's also used in some government agencies. We provide coverage against Center of Internet Security, BSI. This is a German specific standard, probably not so popular in Nigeria, but if you have customers or business with German customers, they will probably be requiring you to have BSI compliance. Then we've got coverage against NIST and HIPAA, which is another security standard for healthcare companies. So as I said, Runecast Analyzer will accumulate this knowledge and security sources, and we will make a scan on your configurations and on your logs. As for the security compliances, we will make the process of security compliance checks absolutely automated and transparent for you, so that at any given point in time, you will be able to see how compliant you are against a specific standard of relevance for you. I hope this makes sense. Okay, and going to the next slide, you will see what is the solving problem method with Runecast Analyzer already in your data center. Let's assume you have the same piece of infrastructure and VMware, and this way you have this time you have Runecast Analyzer already connected to your vCenter. Runecast Analyzer, as I already mentioned, will accumulate information from the knowledge-based articles. Again, there are like several tens of thousands of articles out there. I think they're close to 30,000 articles. Best practices, security hardening guides, white papers, and we will make a scan on your environment. Based on this scan, we will practically show you misconfigurations, security non-compliances, and best practices deviations before they cause a severe damage to your environment, before they cause an outage or some type of downtime. The positive sides of this approach is proactive. That's a very important element here. You don't need to wait to have an outage before, you don't need to wait to have a crash in your environment at all. You can see things up front. You can see things proactively. You can see misconfigurations or non-compliances before they cause any damage to your environment. Your service is not affected while we're doing the scan. Also, it's extremely efficient. It normally takes several minutes to perform full scan on your environment. It's extremely fast. It's addressing all known issues and your entire environment. Basically, you just press the button and you let things happen. Later in Steve's presentation, you'll be able to see how things work in almost real time. Okay, going to the next slide. This is the architecture. As you can see, Roomcast sits in the middle. It's an on-premise solution, right? This is a very important element as well. No data will leave the data center of our customers. We don't share anything in the cloud or anything like that. Roomcast, it comes as an OVA file. It's on-prem solutions. If you have VMware, it will connect to the vCenter, right? If you're running any type of cloud, it will connect to AWS. I'm sorry, not any type. If you have AWS cloud, it will connect directly to AWS. It can connect to Kubernetes if you have Kubernetes instances, right? And as well, we integrated recently with ServiceNow and vCloud Director and Azure. So if you have any of these products, if you're using any of these products, Roomcast can be of help to you and to your organization. How things work, Roomcast has a central repository where we have this artificial intelligence that is constantly scraping through the sources that I already mentioned a couple of times, the knowledge base articles, best practices, security standards, social media, even with tracking some important influencers out there that could discuss relevant problems and all that. We are constantly monitoring the sources with this artificial intelligence. One thing to note here is that Roomcast Analyzer can work with or without internet connection. There are clients out there which are not permitted to work with on the internet, and this is no problem for Roomcast Analyzer. Roomcast Analyzer can work perfectly well without the internet connection whatsoever. Of course, when it comes to updating it, this should be done manually in the case that you're using Roomcast offline. Okay. Again, drop your questions if you have any. We'll address them later. Business benefits, I think it's pretty obvious already. Roomcast Analyzer will save a lot of time, system admin time. We will reduce the outages of our customers to 60 to 70%. We will improve the security posture of our customers by making the process of compliance checks automated and transparent. And the bottom line, we will save you money. First of all, the money of system admin time, the outages that you might have that we can prevent, of course, and the potential audit penalties. A couple of our customers, as you see, big organizations are already using Roomcast, and of course the list is much longer. You can find more details on our website, roomcast.com. All right. In this moment, I will hand the floor back to Steve, who will take you to the technical presentation, a little bit more of a deep dive technical presentation.
So hopefully you can see my screen. So what we're looking at here is the main dashboard, and I can see my configuration issues by severity and by layer in the stack. Everything here is selectable, so I can jump in at any point. These are my knowledge base articles applicable to my environment, best practice adoption, overall security compliance. So that will depend on what you've decided to comply with. For example, not just the VMware hardening guides, but if you decided to use CIS or ISO, PCI DSS, this will be included here. These are the log KB issues created by VMware. My hardware compatibility, so this is showing me how many hosts have incompatibilities with the VMware harden incompatibility guide. And the vulnerabilities detected. So this is my VMSA CVE issues and things that I really need to jump on quite quickly. The issue history here is the last 30 scans. So this is showing me, again, it's selectable, but it's nice because it just shows me I've slipped out here. So maybe some configuration drift, or I've spun up some new VMs, but I can see I've got some work to do here. The hosts with the most issues, I believe, explains itself. And at the bottom here, we can see the systems that we can connect into Roomcast Analyzer. So I have 3 vCenters here. This is Horizon, Kubernetes, NSXT management. NSXV we can monitor as well, but that's connected through when we connect to the vCenter. AWS, Azure, and vCloud Director. Now, the interesting thing here is if I expand one of these, we'll be able to see that, this is a tiny cluster. I've got 3 hosts, 20 VMs, and we've performed nearly 38,500 checks here. So this is broken down into KB checks, security compliance, best practice. We're also checking, for example, relationships between the DB port groups and hosts. So that's why we're performing so many checks. And if you think about it, for all of these systems here, it takes about 2.5 to 3 minutes to scan all of these systems and perform that amount of checks, in every different area. So, that really is the power of Runecast in, what it can dig out from your environment and show you where the issues are. Let's jump into the all issues view. We'll come back to the inventory view in a second, but the all issues view. So this is where I can start to do some, real deep dive. And if I need to, I can do some very granular reporting. So I can filter here by my systems, the severities, the profiles. So the profiles that we're covering here, this is all of our security plus knowledge-based best practice. Some of these, like this configuration drift profile and the security framework profiles here, these are custom profiles, which we'll have a look at a bit later. Where it applies to in the stack, your standard AMPRS and any products which you have connected to Runecast. So I can do some very nice filtering here. And if I want to go back and do some reporting, I can go back to any point of time here, and then I can export here as well as either CSV or PDF. So this can really help for information governance. When we're having a look at the object count per history scan, there's a nice little thing that we can do here. So for example, where we've jumped up at this point, I might want to know what's happened between these 2 points here. So I can select this and I can do a comparison with that previous result. So I can see here I've got 68 new issues. I've resolved 1 issue since then. And we can see our new issues. We'll also see in here increased and resolved issues. So, if it's increased, it's happening on more objects. And if it's resolved, obviously, I've, remediated that on a few objects since that's happened. So another way to go really deep dive is in the inventory view. This is one of my favorite views because it really does give me a view down to see, what's happening in my environment to a very granular point. I can pull out just this one VM and see what's happening here. For any of these issues, I can select this, and that's going to jump me in and show me the details here of what's going on. So we'll have a look at these sorts of details in a bit. But this is nice as well because, for instance, I can just say, where are the critical issues in my environment? So we can see all of these figures here change. And, I can start to see exactly, where all of these issues are coming from. I don't have any critical in my network, thankfully. But yeah, for individual areas, I can see exactly what's going on. So let's jump into the config KBs, and this is where we can really see, what's going on under the hood and how we can help you. So it looks a little bit scary to start with. There's a lot of PSOD going on here, but I don't actually have this happening in my environment right now. So if we have a look here, this combination of findings, and if I just expand this up, so we can see here, this is the full text from the knowledge base article. So from these symptoms and those findings, we can tell that I'm going to get this purple screen of death, but I don't have it right now. So that really is the point of Runecast Analyzer. It's to move you away from break fix and make you proactive in your environment. So, normally something breaks, then you figure out what's gone on, and then either you contact VMware support or you're using Skyline, which basically, again, contacts VMware support, and you have to wait for an answer to come back, or you go and look for the knowledge base article yourself. With Runecast Analyzer, you don't have to do any of that because we can tell that this issue is going to happen. We can tell you what the issue is and provide you with the full knowledge base article of how to remediate that immediately. So as we're looking at this, just to make you aware, so we import all of the knowledge base articles, best practice, and all of the security into Runecast Analyzer. So if you're running a dark site and you cannot connect to the internet, then you can still run Runecast. There's just a different way to update it. If you're connected to the internet, it will update itself. So, you never have to update Runecast. Once a week, we've got a bit of proprietary software which scrapes all of these articles, and then our vExperts take these, put them into Runecast, and once a week, every Tuesday, they're updated in the knowledge definitions. So the only time we would do that quicker is if, we constantly monitor the communities as well. So if some big security flaw gets found and it's running around the communities, we will take that, and within 24 hours, we will find a fix and put that in Runecast. So we're trying to keep our customers, ahead of the curve and as secure as possible. So what I can see here, I've instantly got a resolution. And, if it's something like an update, I can select this as well. And that's going to jump me straight into the VMware website. So, I can immediately download that. So again, we're saving you time because you don't have to go and look for that. That's right there at your fingertips. Okay, for best practices, we have a very similar looking dashboard. We like to keep everything looking the same, so it's very easy to navigate. So we have our pass-fail results on the right-hand side here. For something, for example, like disable SSH, if you've configured your environment for a specific reason, or if this is maybe happening in your development area, and this is now creating extra noise, you don't want to see this message, we can choose to ignore this here. So I can give that a filter name and a description so the rest of the team knows why I've done that. And then, for example, filter that out in development, or come through and say, okay, actually for the whole of my environment, I've configured for a specific reason, I don't want to see this message. We can also, get quite granular again with the filters. So apologies for this slight lag I'm having today. And I can turn them on and off in the settings. I can add them here as well. But what this allows me to do is if I just open one of these up, so we can actually get quite granular, for best practice, I can start coming in and deep diving and saying, okay, I know about this, but I've configured for a specific reason. Or if you're running, a couple of different security compliance in your environment, maybe you need PCI DSS on 2 vCenters, but not on another one, then I can select this and say, okay, I don't need PCI here, and filter that out. So in this way, I can really start to take control of my environment and, really just be provided the information that I want to see about about the issues I'm having. And, as I was saying, we can turn these filters on and off on the right-hand side here. So you can use these for a variety of reasons. Maybe if you're remediating some hardware and there's going to be a scan, but you don't want those issues coming through, then we can, turn on a filter here to stop those issues coming through while you're doing that as well. So many possibilities. Okay, so the vulnerabilities, and this is covering, as I said earlier, I've got my VMSAs in here, my CVEs in here. We've introduced this in the last couple of weeks. And the purpose here really is just to point out, exactly where these serious flaws are in my environment, where the vulnerabilities are coming from. And again, we have all of the information here and everything's linked through so that you can remediate those as soon as possible. For security compliance, so we can see all of the areas we're currently covering here. We actually work on the principle of customer demand. So if there's a huge demand for a specific security compliance, then we will include that in here and that will get bumped up the roadmap. Let's have a quick look at PCI DSS for the payment card industry. So this is quite an interesting one. Currently, the PCI group are updating this security compliance, but having to work with the old security compliance, some of the areas aren't quite as hard as we might like in our environment. So we've included this customize option. So I can come in here and say, for example, with the password policy. So if I have a look at the PCI detail here, so this requires a minimum length of 7 characters. Well, this is quite outdated, as we can see. So CIS requires a minimum 14, ISO a minimum 15. So 7 is not really as hard as we'd like. So we can choose to customize that. And I can just pop in here and say, and change this value and say, you know, I want that to be 15 characters. And use all of the special characters. So, you know, upper, lowercase, special characters and numerics within those passwords to make sure that's really hardened. So one of the things you might have noticed while I was talking about that there is that we have a PCI detail and a technical description. So where the details for these security areas are either overly complex or maybe they contain some legal terminology, and I don't need to read all of this information. We've actually created technical descriptions. As you can see, it's much shorter, it's much more straight to the point, and it's what a sysadmin is going to understand. So, you know, the point of really being able to just see the issue, deal with the issue, that's why we've put these in here, again, to make it, you know, your lives nice and easy. I'll just jump into ISO quickly as well, because where security compliance has some manual features, you know, we have to do these manual checks. ISO is one of those. So we've included those as well. So for these manual checks, okay, so this one's for AWS. Let's choose some VMware. But yeah, for these manual checks, if there's Power CLI that needs to be applied, you know, we've included that in here as well. So you don't have to go and try and find out what that is. And we can see as well, absolutely everything's referenced back to where we've taken the information from. But for ISO, we need to do these manual checks. So to avoid complication, we've included them in here. And also I can come in here and say, okay, for these objects, I've done these manual checks. So I can edit this. And, you know, it's very possible sometimes we're overworked and we don't have the time to do them. We can be honest and say no, but hopefully it would be a yes. It will auto populate with who's logged in and the answer date, so we know who's answered this. And then I can change the expiry date should I, you know, feel the need. Maybe I want to do that again, a check at the end of July, because I know auditors are coming in to check our environments. So we want to be able to provide a report on this. So when I save that, this is then going to disappear and it will come back and it will tell me again at that point in time that I need to do these manual checks. So this is really handy for a couple of reasons. You know, if you've got a sysadmin who's out on holiday or someone who's off sick, or maybe they've even moved positions to a new company, it doesn't matter who's holding these notes because Runecast holds the notes for you. So everyone in your team is always aware of what needs to happen in your environment. So just while we're talking about security, I'm going to skip over hardware compatibility and go to custom profiles. We'll come back to hardware compatibility. But with the custom profiles, we can actually create our own profiles here. So within your company, if you need, or rather, if you have created your own security framework that you need to work to, and your company says, look, you know, this is what we require from security. You know, maybe you don't need to comply to the security compliance that we put in there. You could actually create your own security framework. You can also create profiles, for example, for configuration drift. If you've got constant configuration drift, you can take the issues when you see them appear in the config KBs or best practice and put them into that profile so that you can just come in the morning and check that and make sure that that hasn't happened again. Let's have a quick look at the security framework one. So we can see here that I've started building this up from areas from ISO, CIS, best practice, NIST, PCI. And the way that we do this is we jump into the definition database. So just to make life a little bit easier for myself, I'm going to skim down and just do vSphere. And then let's have a look. CIS, from my personal point of view, CIS, ISO, and where are we? NIST. Yeah, these are very strong security guidelines. So you'll notice that I missed GDPR there. If you do need to comply to GDPR, we would use a combination of ISO and CIS. GDPR in here is only for AWS, and the simple reason is that VMware have not created their own documents on the GDPR. So NIST and ISO and CIS will give us 100% coverage for GDPR. So I can start filtering here, and then I can say, okay, I want to build up a password policy. So if I just put pass in here, so I can see some options that I've got here. Prohibit the use of passwords within 5 iterations looks good to me. So I can copy this out to my custom profile. And I can even choose, maybe for me that's critical. I can change the severity here, and we can copy this issue out. So if I jump back to my custom profile here, we'll see this at the top as not analyzed. And I've created that as a critical issue in my framework. So in this way, we can really start to build up our own framework and be compliant to not only anything like ISO that we need to be compliant to, but also our in-house security frameworks as well. Okay, so let's jump back to the hardware compatibility, because this is a really interesting part of Runecast Analyzer. So normally, again, it's kind of that break fix thing, except in this scenario, it's a check thing. So normally I would have to go through in my environment. I need to check the BIOS, the firmware, the drivers. Then I need to go online and I need to check, against the hardware compatibility list, am I compliant? So with Runecast Analyzer, we remove all of that time again, because here I can just say, okay, show me the hosts with the issues, and I can jump in and immediately I've got the information here. So I'm sure you're all aware, if you're not compliant with the hardware compatibility list, you're out of support with VMware. So this is really important. Although it's a very simple part of Runecast, it's a very important part for your environment. VMware support costs a lot of money, so you want to be compliant there. So I can instantly see here, actually, I should be on this lower version of the BIOS to be compliant. And for my IO devices here, so I've got a driver firmware combination that's out. So I just need to update this firmware to be compliant with this driver. And we can also do this as well for the vSAN controllers. Basically, if it's in the hardware compatibility list, it's in Runecast Analyzer. So this is really nice for checking your environment to be compliant right now. But what happens when you decide that you're going to upgrade? So I can see here, I've got some 6.5, 6.7 and 7. If I decided, okay, actually, I wanted to bring everything to version 7, let's simulate this. And I can have a look here. Again, it's that IO device. And actually, I can see here, it's not compatible. So it's compatible with versions 6.5 update 3 and version 7, but not with 6.7. So it might be then I say, okay, I'll bite the bullet. Let's go for the latest version and we can have a look. So I'm going to have some more issues going on here. But actually for this IO device, then I'm just going to need to update the firmware. So again, before you do that update with your ESXi version, you can really prepare yourself. We can export, either if we're doing the update simulation or just checking our environment as it is, we can export here as a CSV file as well. So we can do some reporting on this if we like to. Okay, so there are 2 final areas that I'd like to show you. Just quickly, I'm going to jump into the Enterprise Console dashboard before we have a look at the log analysis.
Hi, Steve.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to say, let's run the poll, after which you continue with, with the demo. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, what we can do with the Enterprise Console dashboard is we can basically either, for our own environment, separate out our data centers if we have data centers dispersed either across the country or across the globe. Or if you have your own customers, we can layer them out in here as well. So we can start to use Runecast as a service in that way. So, oh, sorry, you want to do the poll and it's just popped up for me.
Yes. Let's allow participants to just answer. We want to have, we want to just know what you have in your environment, So it would also direct as we conclude the demo. Thank you.
So can everybody see the poll at the moment? Because I just shrunk that down on my screen. Let me bring that back up here. So Emil, would you like to talk us through the poll?
Yes, there are 5 questions that you can just click the one that relates to you. First question, what environment do you have or manage? Of course, if you have more than one, you can select more than one. Second question, which solutions do you use to manage, monitor your VMware environment? There are a couple of choices out there, and if it's any other, you can as well post it in the chat box. Third question is, which security profile do you need to comply to? Again, there might be multiple choices here. Please select the ones that relate to you, and if there are others which are not mentioned, please post them on the in the chat box. The fourth question is, how often did you have an outage in your environment over the last year? Okay, same thing. We have a couple of choices there. And the last question, how do you upgrade your vSphere? Are you doing it manually or using any tool? If you're using a tool, please kindly post it in the chat box. Maybe we give each other another 30 seconds. I hope that will be enough for everybody. And then Steve can finalize his presentation, because I think what you're about to see is pretty interesting when it comes to the hardware compatibility and the logs. And there are a number of questions in the Q&A section, so we should spare some time for this as well, Steve and Chinadu.
Of course.
Chinadu, are you okay if Steve continues?
Sure, yes.
Okay. I hope everybody was able to submit his answers.
Okay, so yeah, back to the Enterprise Console dashboard. So yeah, this is where we can, as I was saying, you know, we can separate out our own data centers, or we can use this to separate out our customers if we're working as a service provider. So the way this works, it's not true multi-tenancy because you deploy a version at your site, and then the site that you want to check as well, you would deploy a version of Runecast Analyzer there. And at that either customer site or your external data center, you create an API token, which you would put in here, and an IP or FQDN where we want to connect through to. And that's going to bring that here where I can connect in. So what this means is that, you know, either if I'm going to a customer's site, or if I'm going on site, or I want to pass on information to other people within my company, I can do all of the monitoring from my central Runecast appliance. And then I can, you know, create reports from that, either for going on site to fix issues so that my sysadmins know what they're up against beforehand, or, you know, if it's for customer purposes, we can then start to create, you know, quarterly reports, for example, for their security compliance and different areas, and show them if you're actually managing their services as well fully, you know, how compliant you've kept them within the year. So this is a really very important dashboard, very simple, but allows us that flexibility to jump into other data centers around the globe, or, you know, for our customers as well. So the last area here is log analysis. The log KB is discovered. This is if VMware has created an article on log issues. So again, we can see it's the full text of the KB article here. And the log inspector is the final part. So what we're doing with the log inspector here is we're not trying to compete with things like Log Insight or Splunk or any of these tools that collect logs all of the time. We delete the logs after 60 days. There is an option in Runecast that you can change that number of days if you did want to use it for log collection. But because most people use things like Log Insight and Splunk, and to keep the footprint down as well, we don't do that. The logs get deleted after 60 days because, again, it's just about putting your fingers on that information so that you can just go and get on with your job. And it's really nice. What we're doing here is we're searching by the keywords that normally you'd have to manually search for. You know, there could be an error message in here as well, but I don't have that happening in my environment at the moment. And the idea is to be really quick. So if I spot something and I say, okay, that's catching my eye, what's happening there? We get this little magnifying glass and I can check that out. So we've also got the magnifying glasses by host name and program. I can have a look. It's going on 2 hosts, but this one's having the most issues. And it looks like, yeah, it's just happening from this one program. So in a couple of seconds, I can see, you know, this host, this program, this issue, and it gives us a nice graphic as well to see that this is blank. You know, it's constantly happening. I don't need to now go and check every individual timestamp for what's going on. And we can use these magnifying glasses as well, you know, just from a top level view. So I can just say, okay, you know, which host's having the most issues? Looks like this one here is having the most issues, and which programs are causing me these issues. So that's causing me the most issues. You know, again, this is constantly happening here. But again, you can see that just in a couple of seconds, I can pull that information out. We can also filter up here, for example, by failed to. So interestingly, yesterday I had 1 line of keywords here. Today I've got 2. So this list of keywords will grow and shrink depending on the issues that we found from your syslogs. And also, you know, if you want to do specific searches, if you think you have specific issues going on, for example, I can do a search here for heap and again start drilling down. Okay, you know, this host, it's this one program causing me the issue, but then I've got a nice, again, visual view of when this is occurring. And it just gives me that information at my fingertips to, you know, really dive in and see what's going on in my environment. So just before we jump into the Q&A, I would just like to show you that if you are using, so let's jump back to the main dashboard. So if you are using AWS or Azure, we have these dashboards for both AWS and Azure. So our customers are much preferring these to what they can actually get on a management point from AWS. Again, here we've got a very nice overview of what's happening at the profiles that we're analyzing here. And we're looking at everything from our compute through to network here. I can even see, you know, where this is happening around the globe in my environment. So we can see here that for AWS, we have their best practices. So if I just jump in there quickly and show you, again, referenced directly back to where we've taken the AWS information. And for security compliance, currently we're covering CIS, GDPR, ISO, NIST, and PCI. So this list will grow. AWS came in after the VMware. So obviously we need a little bit of time to get these other security compliance areas in here. And just to show you as well, for Azure, we have the Azure dashboard. So again, my issue history of affected objects and everything running here through from compute to my subscriptions. So again, we've got the best practice here for Azure, but for security compliance, because this is only a month old, we only have CIS in here at the moment. This is going to expand over the year and we will be covering more areas there as well. Okay, so that is Runecast Analyzer in a nutshell. Let's jump down to some questions. So the first one I'm seeing here is, what's Runecast Analyzer's footprint? How large is the VM? So it looks like Victoria would like to answer this question live. Victoria, would you like to take over? Okay.
I think you should come on.
I'll carry on. Okay, so the footprint depends on the deployment size of your environment. So if we have a look in the Runecast guide, I'll just let me bring that up here. So we can see from the guide that we've got 3 different deployment types. So let's have a look, system requirements here. So we've got 3 footprints here. So up to 50 hosts, 2 vCPU, 6 gig of RAM. It's always 120 gig of storage, you can see here. And then, yeah, up to 150, 4 vCPU and 8 gig, and up to 1,200 hosts, 8 vCPU and 32 gig. And it's always recommended as well to have a gig network. So the second one, I believe I covered earlier. It's, does Runecast Analyzer offer automatic issue remediation? Hang on, things are jumping around. So automatic issue remediation. So on that point, I can't actually show you that with my environment at the moment because the host that I have that's actually hosting that is having some hardware issues. But yes, we do. So if you use vRealize Orchestrator, then we do have a plugin for that. And we can actually check at the moment against the VMware hardening guides, PCI DSS and HIPAA. We're bringing in the rest of the security guidelines. So by the end of the year, you'll be able to do auto remediation for all of the security areas. And we're also starting to bring in some areas for KBs and best practice. There will be some areas where we're not going to cover, for example, with upgrades and patching. You know, for updates, we believe that that's something that should be done manually and fully checked, and the same for patching. So that's something that we don't want to automate. But yes, we do have automatic issue remediation. So do we integrate or communicate with third-party monitoring tools? So as Emil was saying at the beginning, we do have a plugin for ServiceNow at the moment. We also have comprehensive APIs, and we've got webhooks for Jira and Slack as well. So again, that's something that's built on customer demand. At the moment, ServiceNow was the big one that's been asked for. But if you have any requests for specific third-party integration, then our team's always willing to take that on board. So can Runecast Analyzer connect to more than one vCenter? Of course. So yeah, initially what you do is you deploy as an OVA to your vCenter. And then what we do is, I can just jump in and show you that after we've you know, connected to our first vCenter, we can add as many vCenters as we like in here. So as long as it's on the same network and we can see it, you know, we can add that vCenter in here. And this is as well, you know, where we would add our vCloud Director, Azure, Horizon, AWS, and Kubernetes connections as well. And the final question here, I believe, is not for me, because I'm afraid, guys, I only deal with technical stuff. So the final question here is, how is Runecast Analyzer licensed? So I shall hand over for one of you guys to answer that.
Yes, Chinedu, do you want me to cover that? Victoria?
Yes, I mean, please go on.
Okay. So Runecast Analyzer is, licensing is based on a physical CPU socket. The logic is that, we also provide kind of a volume pricing. So the larger the number of CPUs that you might have in your environment, the lower the price per CPU per year would be. We have 1 year and 2 year subscription periods, and the AWS and Kubernetes and Azure pricing you can find yourself on our website. Is already officially published, reachable by it can be reached by everybody. If you want more details as to the VMware pricing, please reach out to Layer 3, which is our authorized partner for Nigeria. I hope this is an answer to your question. And there's another question that just popped in, Steve. Does Runecast have plugins for backup solutions such as Veeam and Zerto to check for compatibility before an upgrade?
So if they're running VMware and it's either in a you know, and if it's in the hardware compatibility list, then yes, we cover it. If it's not in the hardware compatibility list, currently we won't be covering it, but it is actually in the roadmap because we understand that individual companies have their own hardware compatibility lists. So if you did decide to go with a vendor's hardware compatibility list, in the future, that will be included in Runecast, but it's not in there right now. Right now, what we have is the VMware HCL.
Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Okay, so in the absence of any other question, I think we've spent more than we planned to. So I just want to share with us. So for those that are interested, we want us to have further engagements. You can contact. Okay, sorry, the last whole question. Okay, so I actually want to know at the end of this webinar who would want to, would want us to run trial, do a kind of POC or proof of value in your environment. We are available, and then we'll be able to come show you how it works in your environment, how Runecast will be able to help you proactively, manage your IT infrastructure, to reduce downtime and, of course, give you the peace of mind which we always preach. So please try and answer the whole question while we continue.
Chinedu, people are sometimes surprised to see how many things they have in their environment without them knowing anything at all. Like, unexpectedly, they will find a lot of things that they have in their environment that could be fixed, could be improved, but they know anything about.
Sure.
So that's a challenge for everybody.
Yeah, so that makes it very important for us to be proactive in mitigating risks that will affect our businesses. Okay. Oh. Okay, so I believe we've all answered the poll. Emil, please, can you share your slides? I'm having issues here sharing the last.
Yes, just 1 second, please.
Okay, have you shared?
I'm trying right now.
All right, so as you're trying to share, I just want to inform each and every one of us, for all the participants, we're very grateful that you found out time to join us. So if you're interested and you want us to run a POC in your environment, you want to see how the solution works, you want to see how you'll be you'll be able to proactively mitigate the risks that are in your environment that you're not aware of, then please reach out to us, reach out to myself, chinedonwora@layer3.com.ng. We'll be able to guide you. Okay, yeah, so you also see the link where you'll be able to, with this link, you'll be able to, this link will also be shared when we're sharing the recording for this presentation. So you'll be able to register, and get the license for the 14-day trial. Then if you require any other thing, please get across to me. We'll be able to guide you through and see how to work with you to make you, just to free your time and give you that peace of mind and make sure that you deliver the most important thing in your business without much hassle. Thank you so much. I appreciate all those that have joined. I appreciate the speakers and the entire team for coming up with this and for the success of this webinar. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.
Thank you for having us. Thanks for the attention as well.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Okay.